Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to a new video on the channel. And today guys, we're going to be doing our AFL 2023 Round 9 preview. But before we go ahead and start that, we're going to be doing our Round 8 review. But essentially in today's video, we're going to be previewing every game of Round 9 and going over my tips and predictions. Now if you want to see full tips and margins, make sure you go ahead and check out my tipping video. Round 8 review before we start as per usual, and it was the Lions over the Blues by 26, Richmond over West Coast by 46, Geelong over the Crows by 26, the D's over the Suns by 5, and Dogs over the Giants by 15, Fremantle over Hawthorn by 69, Port Adelaide over Essendon by 5, Collingwood over Sydney by 29, and St Kilda over North by 30 points. We'll go the ladder. What does it look like now? Which we'll probably revisit this at the end of the video, but at the moment this is how it stands heading into round 9, and I'll show you what the ladder with margins, which make sure you go ahead and check out my tipping video, will look like after the round. Anyway though, round 9 preview, let's go ahead and hop right into things. Richmond Geelong first game around MCG. Friday night at a different start time. It starts 30 minutes earlier than what it normally would on a Friday night due to the double header, but anyway though, run through the first one first. Richmond versus Geelong. Now, Richmond last week finally got their long-awaited win over West Coast. It was not easy for them, though. Oscar Allen went off for West Coast, which did, really cost the Tigers which really cost the Eagles, in the end, and helped the Tigers get on their way to a pretty comfortable win in the end after Dion Presty kicks 3 goals in a row, and that's the changing point of the game. Geelong over Adelaide weren't amazingly great, but it was one of those performances where they did what they needed to do and did it well enough to walk home the 4 points by 26 points over Adelaide. This will probably, I reckon this will be a good game for the first quarter and then just die off, but I reckon the Cats will win this one by 29. So the Friday night second doubleheader coming from Perth, no wonder why it's so late. West Coast versus Gold Coast at Optus Stadium. This is a really important game. I'm not sure if Oscar Allen is playing. If he is, West Coast are a chance. If he's not, they're probably gone. But yeah, I reckon, look, I'm not going to say too much about this game. West Coast last week when Allen went off were out of the game. And Gold Coast put up a great performance against Melbourne. And just fell short late. And, well, I mean, if McPherson had to put that through, if Joel had have had a chance for pushing the back, or Lukosius, there were a couple of little opportunities there that the umpires may have missed, which could have helped a draw or even a potential win for Gold Coast. But yeah, I felt like they actually played pretty well last week. I think they'll bounce back. I don't think they'll win by a lot considering it's at Optus Stadium, but I think they'll win by 27. Sydney versus Fremantle is the first game on the Saturday, and it's 11 versus 12. It's a little bit more interesting than what we thought it would be. And Sydney are going through this rough patch at the moment where they're not playing great at the moment. They've lost 5 of their last 6, I believe, and are in all sorts of trouble. Now, this is an SCG home game. This you think would be a granted win, but you thought that against Port Adelaide. We thought that against the Giants. And no, they did lose those games there, so they have been pretty disappointing in the past few weeks, have Sydney. And, well, they need a bounce back, the Swans. And I feel like they will, but the Dockers last week versus Hawthorn, they were great. They will come in this game. I think they will come, and I think they will charge. I think this will probably be a decent game, a better game than what we thought it was a few weeks ago. I think this will be a decent game. I think the Swans will end up running away late to win by 25, but I reckon keep your eye out on this one. This could be a decent game. North Melbourne versus Port Adelaide is the second Saturday afternoon game, and this is probably not going to be a very interesting game, but Jason Horne-Francis versus his former side. We know all about that. It is going to be feisty. He's going to be fiery in this game. And yes, this will be a very interesting contest. North are going to go after him, and that's one thing, but you got to serve up a performance. And putting 34 as a score after a full game of AFL footy is not going to cut it. 4 goals, 10-34 in a game of footy in the COVID years, acceptable. In this year, when we're playing full quarters, not great. They didn't even have a goal by half-time, did North. But, man, it's at Blunston Arena. They do need to bounce back. I don't think they will. I think Port Adelaide and Jason Horne-Francis will take the win by 45 points. And Port only did what they needed to against Essendon last week, but inaccuracy, again, didn't really help them out anyway. Hawthorn versus Melbourne is the Saturday twilight game, the MCG, and it's 18th versus 2nd. A very unappealing matchup. And I feel like we know how this is going to go. Hawthorn last week, they needed to do something better than what they did. If they were to be any chance of even putting a decent score up in this one, they had to do well last week. And they didn't score much last week at all. They were pretty poor, and I think they scored almost half of their scores in the first term alone. They were definitely disappointing, especially when some people saw them being a potential chance in that game versus Fremantle, and then they just absolutely lost it pretty comfortably. So I think the D's will come back and absolutely smash them again, and I think they'll win by 67, the D's. We know how good they are, and even though they only got a narrow win over Gold Coast, I still feel like against the worst side being Hawthorn, they'll be able to smash them. Brisbane versus Essendon is the Saturday night Channel 7 game, and this one's probably not going to be very interesting, I don't think. Essendon versus Port Adelaide, first quarter domination, second, third and fourth quarters, they lost them all, resulting in them losing the game by 5 in the end. And against Port Adelaide, which should have punished them last week, but they were inaccurate and didn't. You can't do that against the Brisbane side. You have to be dominant, and you got to take the chance, which Essendon did take their chance. They just didn't generate enough later on in the game. But look, versus the Brisbane side, which will punish you anywhere, let alone at the Gabba, this is going to be a very tough performance for a good Essendon side, but I don't think they'll be able to take it up to the Lions. We know how good the Lions are. They proved they can win interstate last week versus Carlton, but they're not going to need to use that this week. They're just going to need to play well, and play well I think they will. I think they'll absolutely smash the Bombers by 44 points and give them a bit of a reality check as well. I feel like Essendon haven't quite had a big reality check yet this year. I feel like this will definitely be a reality check for them, just to calm things down a little bit and actually know that they're playing reality. But I think they'll get a little bit of a reality check this week versus the Lions, who will beat them comfortably on their home ground. Carlton versus the Dogs, probably the more appealing Saturday night matchup as well. And this is a 50-50 game, could go either way. 8th versus 7th as well. Don't we love those kind of matchups? Marvel Stadium as well. Both these two sides are pretty good at Marvel, but last week Carlton did make a few poor mistakes, and the Dogs only just got over the Giants despite holding a pretty nice three-quarter time lead. This is a game of two sides which I personally feel like do need a win here as well. The Dogs, they've done what they've needed to do in the past 2 weeks. They haven't done it with great confidence or great margins, but they've done what they've needed to do and picked up the win in the past couple of weeks despite being challenged. And the Blues, their last few weeks, good win over West Coast, poor loss to Brisbane. They've been a little bit choppy and rough in the past couple of weeks. So this is a really exciting contest, and I've gone a little bit of an upset to the Dogs by 6. It is interesting tipping upsets, even though I believe they do have the money with them. But I feel like the Dogs will be a little bit too strong and win this game by 6. But that is a 50-50. Mother's Day games, first one, Adelaide Oval, Crows versus St Kilda. I am looking forward to this game. This is a big game for my Crows versus St Kilda. And look, this is Adelaide Oval. The Crows play very well there. And last week only just lost to the Cats, and I'm going to give them a little bit of support here. And I mean, especially considering they're my team, but I'm going to give them some support. And so they actually played quite well last week. And I think anybody would say they played quite well and took it up to the Cats at GMHBA. But in the end, the Cats were too strong, kicked the last couple of goals to walk away and win. And St Kilda last week did what they needed to do against North. Didn't absolutely hammer them, but did what they needed to do, pick up the win. This is going to be an exciting contest. The Saints could easily win this game, I reckon. They could win the game. But I feel like at the Adelaide Oval, and tipping, not really an upset here, because the Crows are actually the favourites, believe it or not. But I think the Crows will win by 4. I think they're too good at the Adelaide Oval, and I think the Saints will get a little reality check as well. But this is a 50-50 game as well. Pies v Giants to end off the round at the MCG, and this strikes as one of the more unappealing matchups. And the Giants might give a fight, but I'm not sure whether Toby Green will be playing or not. But if he isn't, that'll be an even tougher blow, and I feel like the Pies will be able to win pretty comfortably if Toby Green's not there. If Toby Green's there, it gives the Giants a little flickering spark. But look, first versus 13th. The Giants, they've been alright this year. They were okay last week. They weren't great, though, only having 39 up to three-quarter time and trying to come back in the last, but too little too late. And the Pies versus, who did they play last week again? Versus Sydney. Just did what they needed to do. They didn't absolutely smash them, but again, in the end, just got over the top of them by 29 comfortably, and I think they will get over the Giants by 35 and really send a signal to the competition that they're here this year and they are one of the best sides in the comp. Alright, so my tips for this week are Geelong by 29, Gold Coast by 27, Sydney by 25, Port Adelaide by 45, Melbourne by 67, Brisbane by 44, the Dogs by 6, Adelaide by 4, and Collingwood by 35. Now to the ladder after round 9. Now make sure to go ahead and check out my tipping video if you want to see exact scores, as that can impact the ladder, as we do know. But this is the ladder. Collingwood on top, still 8-1. Melbourne, Brisbane, Port 7-2. This does go in ladder positional order as well. Geelong, St Kilda, Dogs 6-3. Adelaide, the only team just inside the 8, 5-4. Carlton 4-4-1. Sydney, Essendon, and Gold Coast 4-5. Fremantle, GWS 3-6. Richmond 2-6-1. North 2-7. West Coast and Hawthorn 1-8. But there is a ladder after round 9 if these margins go to plan. And now to some stats which we've got. In the marks category, Nick Haynes now has taken the most marks. Last week it was James Sicily on top in that area, but that's now Nick Haynes who has edged him out. Jeremy Cameron is still in front of the Coleman medal, followed by Charlie Curnow and then Charlie Cameron. Charlie Cameron is still a little chance to win, and he's been great this year. If he is a small forward that can do it, hats off to Charlie. But at the moment, it's Jeremy Cameron that is in front on 33, and then Charlie Curnow on 31. Nick Dacos got the most disposals. Score involvements is Jeremy Cameron and Charlie Curnow, who are equal. And then, yeah, that'll do for the stats. Big round of footy coming up with some really big games. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. So then you guys will never miss another video on the channel. Thank you guys all so much. Goodbye everyone. Flame Footy out.